the flashing NES screen, one of the sure signs that your 72-pin connector is no longer working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the time to actually show you what you need to do to fix this, and it's going to be a little bit of an experiment for me and an experiment for you guys too. We'll see if this works. I'm going to try cleaning off the old 72-pin connector, but in the meantime, let's go ahead and start the disassembly. And as long as you follow the steps that I lay out for you, I think that you'll have success.
Take the bass line out. Jiggle.
Bounce with it.
Yeah. Let it bump though.
Okay, so as you hopefully saw in my last video, this here is the NES that I got in that bundle package that I bought from Goodwill. I anticipated this problem, and I anticipated the fact that this probably wasn't working, or else the people wouldn't have traded in, or not traded in, but wouldn't have donated it to Goodwill. They may have kept it for their collection. Before we get started, there's going to be a couple things that you're going to need. You know, there's one alternative to this. You could just replace the 72-pin connector altogether. I don't know what this 72-pin connector looks like. In case it's really messed up, I do have a backup 72-pin connector, so we've got that under control. But you're going to need a couple other things if you plan on hopefully cleaning off and saving your old 72-pin connector. One thing would be some alcohol, you know, regular rubbing alcohol. This is 50%. I don't have the 70%, the stronger stuff, but this should do the trick as well. Brasso. This is a product that, you know, I didn't come up with this idea myself. I saw somebody else on YouTube that had a video where they use this, and I'll show you what this is used for later on in the video. Standard Phillips head screwdriver. Unfortunately, to get into this system, you don't need any special tools. It's very simple to actually pop this thing open and repair. If you can't repair this system, really you have no business messing around with any kind of tools. There's some electrical parts in here, obviously, but there's nothing that you can mess up as long as you follow the instructions, as long as you do what's necessary. And you know, you'll need the NES system and your wife's you know, dining room table, so you can mess that up and get yelled at later on. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. I will edit this video so that you don't have to see all the boring things, but I will show you the necessary steps of what you need to do. Alright, so you've got all 6 of those screws unscrewed, and what you want to do is just go ahead and remove the bottom from the top of the casing. And what I typically do at this time is just flip it upside down, let all the screws fall out. And a good way to just keep track of these is to put them in that piece there. Now, oh, there's one more that just fell out. Alright, so I don't know if you could tell here, this thing is pretty dirty in here. Wow, really dirty actually. So it's a good time to just take it, clean it up, whatnot, you know, get it looking clean. But the next step in this process is to actually remove this metal shield here. And you could do so by removing, I believe it's a total of 7 screws, or actually 6 screws rather. There's one here. No, it is 7. There's one here, one here, one here. Up top here, there are 2 more. You've got one here, and then on the side you've got one here and one here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those, and I'll come back once I get those removed. Alright, so this screw's removed. This simply pops off. Now I've already removed it. I actually cleaned it up a little bit. You know, I've seen in like MNC 122703 his video, you know, saying where he just removes this and doesn't use it again. I take a little bit of a different approach. I leave it intact just because that's the way I am. I don't know. It's whatever your preference is. And then I just take the screws that I pulled out from there and usually put it in here. This just helps you keep track of where the screws were. Not that it's really that hard to mess up. Also, on a side note, a couple other things I forgot to mention that you're going to need as far as tools in this. A toothbrush, preferably like an older one, one that you've used. You see this one's been pretty beat up by, the use of my teeth. And just, some kind of cloth. I use an old t-shirt. Old undershirt works really well because there's no, usually no lint left over from that. Next step in this process is actually to remove the tray that holds the game in place. And you'll find that there's actually 6 screws that holds this in place. There's one here, there is one here, and one here. So there's 3 on each side. Now the one thing to keep note of is that this middle screw here, the one in between the top 2 screw, the top screw and the bottom screw, is a little bit longer. So you're just going to want to keep track of that, make a mental note of that, and then I'm going to go ahead and unscrew this and come right back. Okay, so all you need to do after that is just basically pull off this this tray that holds it in place. And the last step in this, and actually removing it, is there's a screw here and a screw here that holds the board in place. It's very easy. Just unscrew those, and then we'll get to the last step of this, and I'll come right back once I have those unscrewed. Okay, so 72-pin connector is here. After looking at it, it's actually in pretty decent shape. It should be fixable. Not 100% sure, but we're going to try it anyways. This is where the rubbing alcohol comes into place. What I'm going to do is just stick my toothbrush in here, get some of that rubbing alcohol on there, and just get it nice and soaked, and go ahead and just scrub this up. And hopefully, once you get this scrubbed up real nice and good, let it dry. You don't want to put it back on there wet. Rubbing alcohol usually tends to dry fairly quickly anyways. Okay, so here's the last step in getting this old NES back into working condition. And this is where the Brasso comes into play. Basically, Brasso is a brass cleaner, but it works really good on cleaning these contact points. I actually put a little bit too much on there. It's not going to harm anything. But what you want to do now is just get this really nice and polished up. And as you do that, you'll start to see some blackness on this. I mean, you could rub this all day and it would, still keep on coming off black, but you want to get both sides really good. Just get it really clean and, nice and polished, so that you get a nice contact, a nice connection there when you slip that 72-pin connector back on. Now, the last step is actually just to take some of that rubbing alcohol, apply it to, whatever it is that you're cleaning this with, the cotton t-shirt or, the undershirt or whatever, and just rub that down, just so you get any of the, Brasso residue off of there. Like I said, if you don't have Brasso, you can use like a steel wool pad. You can try using just, your standard rubbing alcohol. Most of you should have that in your house. And anyways, that's it. You wait for that to dry for a little bit, and then reconnect the 72-pin connector, reassemble everything the same way. Before you reassemble it all, and screw everything back together, I would go ahead and test this. That's what I'm going to go ahead and do. So I'm going to come back once I have some of these things back together and we have it to a point where we can actually test this and see if it's going to work. Alright, so we've got this NES partially reassembled. Now it's time to test out, see if what we did makes a difference. What better game to test it out with than Gunsmoke. Another classic Capcom game. Let's go ahead and slide it in, push it down, power button on, and there we go. It's working.
From standing on the corners bopping to driving some of the hottest cars New Yorkers ever seen, for dropping some of the hottest verses rappers ever heard. from the dope spot with the smoke block, clinging the murder scene. You know me well from nightmares of a lonely cell. My only hell, but since when y'all niggas know me to fail? Fuck nah, we all my niggas with the rubber grips. Bust shots, and if you with me, mama.